Ben, I already see you in the fucking comments. I already see you in the fucking comments, dude. You had to dog on me about not liking brand cereal. Fucking disgusting, by the way. I don't want to hear you come at me. Light Greek vanilla yogurt with some protein granola in there. If I hear one word out of your fucking mouth, oh, best believe I know where you live. I will not hesitate to air it out next episode. Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host today, Gaming Legion. You can call me Legion, you can call me Jacob, whichever you prefer. Welcome back. I've been feeling a little bitchless, a little maidenless, you could say, over the past week. I went home for spring break and decided, let me start reading a bunch of new manga. Blue Box just ended, let me go read the manga. Guess what I spent 6 hours on Saturday doing? Reading the Blue Box manga, crying my fucking eyes out because I'm lonely as shit. He picked Chinatsu, good on you, Taiki. And I lost a lot of sleep. So because I lost a lot of sleep, I was not able to record this video or get it edited. So we're doing this on a Monday. Apologies for no regularly scheduled video. Get fucked. So I'm feeling a little bitter right now. I'm feeling a little heartbroken. And I'm still going off the high of last week of complaining about college shit. So you know what? We're going to complain a little bit more. Now we're complaining about Pokemon. I want to complain about Pokemon. There is so much shit that I love about Pokemon, first of all. So much stuff I absolutely love about Pokemon. I love the Pokemon. Pikachu's pretty cute. Gardevoir's kind of hot. I mean, we're not going to lie here. But for as much as I love the Pokemon games, the Pokemon is quite literally my favorite series of video games. And I mean my, absolute favorite. My favorite game of all time is Pokemon White 2. So I'm not afraid to say that. I'm bitchless. Because I love the game so much, there is so much that has gone on over the past few years, the decisions that they've made that I am not a fan of, and I want to talk about that today. Before I start, I want to say that this is no hate to any, developer or any of those regular developers who are just working on the game and getting told what to do. I'm sure that they're not the problem. One of the biggest problems that everybody knows about with Pokemon is that, one, they don't give themselves enough time, hence why we were excited that they took a fucking year off for ZA. And also because it is also a bit of a thing where they are also not understaffed, but underpaid a little bit over in Japan. I'm gonna be honest when I say that. I haven't done any research on that recently, so I can't fully say that with confidence. But I do remember that being a problem. So I, along with everybody else in the creator space or just fans, pretty much all of us know that it is not the regular developer's fault. It is the higher-ups, the managers, the, directors over there at GameFreak and maybe at Nintendo as well, making these decisions and just really fucking with everyone here. Let me get one more hit of my best yogurt and granola, and then we can get into this. So I took a break between recording and editing the video, and I was watching the new Beat 'em Ups video, complaining about Pokemon, and he's making a lot of the same points that I am. God damn it, Wood. I did not watch the video. I did not watch his video before I made my video. I'm literally watching it for the first time right now. So if you have seen that video and come to see this video and you say he's making all the same fucking points, in fact, I am making almost exactly some of the same points. Just know that me and Wood, we're two minds. We're of the same mind, Australia is the underside of America. He's my other half. He's my evil twin. So yeah, I did not steal from Beat 'em Ups or reinvent his video. We just actually had a lot of the same ideas. First thing we got to talk about here, and this is more of an opinion, I fucking hate the art style of Scarlet and Violet and what looks to be Legend ZA. Now, before we get into this, I think I need to really describe the difference between art style and graphics, because graphics is a whole other thing that I will be talking about, but I am strictly talking about the art style of the game. I'm not a fan of it, so this is a bit of a nitpick to start. Art style is the creative and aesthetic choices made, the look and the feel of the game. The designs of the characters, the structures, the environments, the color scheme of everything. That is art style. The art style itself is mostly affected by the creators. You know, any changes in art style is going to come from the creators mainly. If you also want to look at more gaming, you can look at Wind Waker, which was more cel shaded, or you could look at Twilight Princess, which had that dark and gritty, semi-realistic art style. You know, stuff like that. You could look to, what is it? Echoes of Wisdom and the Link's Awakening remake, where those are like the chibi art style. Those you can absolutely look at. There are different art styles. They do different things. And I mean, if you want to get technical, the Pokemon Sword and Shield trees are an art style. It's shit on a screen, but it works, I guess. Now, what are graphics? Graphics are the technical quality of the visuals on screen. Screen. This is your resolution, your frame rate, your lighting, and your rendering of the game. This is mostly affected by your hardware and software as well. How well is whatever console or system you are running this thing on able to generate and process everything that you are putting into the game. And to differentiate graphics from art style, again, you can look at The Last of Us, PS3 versus PS4, and hell, even PS5, where it is the same art style. It looks the same art style wise, but the resolution, the lighting, all the little shits around it, all the details look a lot cleaner, crisper, better. But the art style is still the same. Now, I'm not even talking about the character models or like the Pokemon designs. I think while obviously you can look at a few Pokemon designs and criticize them, that's not what I'm here to do today, mostly because I don't give too much of a shit. I feel like people who are like, oh my god, this Pokemon looks ugly as shit. It's 1 out of 1,200. You can't just shut up. But it looks like the art style that they're trying to go with is somewhat like a semi-realistic sort of art style where, like, if you're looking at it from a little bit of afar or something, like, you could see it as being realistic, but it's got that slight animated, cartoony, you know, you get what I'm saying. It's got that slight thing in there that just makes it look realistic, but not at the same time. It's hard for me to perfectly describe since I am not, you know, in that field. I'm not super up to date on all of that. I'm not very well versed in all of it, but I think you kind of get what I'm saying. The problem is that they try and go with that, and then looking at the Legend ZA trailer, they have shit not even like 3D. Then they have shit as a 2D structure. All right, this is going to get like really nitpicky right here, but like let me show you what I'm talking about. If you look here, it looks kind of semi-realistic. I feel like if you were kind of squinting at it, you might be able to see, I could see that being a real place, like obviously in France, maybe. But then you look back here, you can see my cursor. You're looking back here, and let me see if I can get it even closer. These flowers are very clearly not protruding out of anything. There's no, like, obviously in the background you have some depth and some 3D with some of these buildings. Like, the windows here have a little bit of depth to them, but then you have, like, on the side here of the building, that's supposed to be what I would assume to be, like, a little balcony or something like that. Something where you can, like, kind of poke your head out of, and you could do that. Why is there just a flat gate right across here? There's no depth with it. Same thing here with the flowers. There's no depth. It looks like it's supposed to be in one of those window potted plant things, but it's not. There's no depth. Scrolling here, you could see it even more here. Like you could see the edge here. That is definitely supposed to be like a little terrace or something like that, you know, a little overhang that where yours, I would assume, would walk out. There's just a gate there, and it's very clearly just like pressed up against the wall. And forgive me if I'm wrong. I've been to France, but I have not actually, like, you know, explored the architecture. Fortunately, that was not the purpose of my trip. But I didn't really see a lot of buildings with gates just stuck against the windows. Maybe I just wasn't looking. That's very possible. But like, why could we not get like a little bit more depth? Because here's what you got to think about. If this was like a one-off town or something, like even in Scarlet and Violet, I could forgive this a little bit because you're not really in the towns a lot of the time. You are very much out in the wild. You're over in Kitakami, you're over at the Blueberry Academy. You're not in a town sitting there for like days looking at this. In this game though, we are going to be in the city for seemingly the entire game. We might have 1 or 2 missions where we go out. I don't know. That's possible. But we're assuming we are going to be in the town, in the city, the entire game. And if all of the buildings look like this, it just... Come on, man. Like, you did an amazing... Like, obviously here it's very pixelated. I'm not going based off this picture. But the grass and the foliage in this game looks outstanding. I will say, the grass and the foliage, all that looks outstanding. I love the Pokemon models and how they look. That's a little bit more to graphics, but still. I love how the models look. Why are the backgrounds so flat? Like, where it should have some depth in that. Whenever I think about the Pokemon art style and where it peaked, in my opinion, a lot of people go back to Gen 5 or Gen 4 because those are some of, like, the peak of their pixel era graphics. Which I will say, for the pixel era, I gotta go with Gen 5. I'm a Unova dick sucker, okay? Sorry. It's based around New York, for one, and Pokemon White 2 was my first game, so sorry, I'm a Unova dick sucker. But that was the height of the pixel era. But if I had to say my favorite art style out of every Pokemon game, I would have to heavily prop up Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee for their take on the chibi art style. That chibi art style that they did in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee was the height of Pokemon art style. And hell, you could say graphics too, but that's a later issue. I mean, if you've played Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, or at least have seen gameplay, think back to it, dude. Everything was so crisp, so nice. The backgrounds had, like, nice depth to them. They had a bunch of color. It was very vibrant. Of course, they were limited by it being a linear game and trying to remake it off of the Gen 1 and Gen 3 remake, or the Gen 1 and the Gen 1 remake games, so it wasn't an open world game. So of course, we only got to see what they exactly wanted us to see. So I will fully admit, I'm not sure if that could or how that would transfer over into an open world style game like we have been getting in these past few titles. But I think if they are able to pull that off, get that art style in there, because that was an amazing art style. It was so nice. It felt kiddish and cartoony, but, like, in a good way. It didn't feel like they were trying to go for realism. And I think that's a big thing that a good amount of games actually fall into, and why I think they don't need to be doing that. They try to rely too much on realism and looking like this is real life, when you don't need to be doing that. There are so many games that have good art styles and don't try and go for realistic that are amazing. Cuphead goes for that old, film art style like that. You've got Shovel Knight and basically anything that uses pixel art. I just mentioned Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, of course, that art style. You have the Persona art style, which I will say does also try to go for some realism at some points, but it is still very cartoony, animated looking, and anime looking. That's a great art style. Not every game needs to be super realistic looking, and I think especially with Pokemon, trying to lean more into realistic looking actually hurts it more than it helps it. I would say with Pokemon, stick to the more cartoony, anime-ish art styles, the chibi art style. Those, I think, are going to be where the bread and butter is for Pokemon in the future, because they're totally watching this video. Ishihara, what's up, my boy? Well, one OG to another. I'm just giving you the facts. And also one more point before I move on from this. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee had cutscenes that were able to flow nice and easily in between gameplay and the cutscene. Anytime you went up against one of the legendary Pokemon, there was always a mini cutscene right before it. Or at the end, you had your cutscenes there as well. And it felt like they weren't taking a whole different game or a whole different idea of the game as a cutscene. Do you know what I mean? Like, they didn't, like, change up the art style completely for the cutscene and then go back to gameplay where it looks completely different. No, it looked like it was going through as if you had that model right there. Yes, I know technically a bunch of games do this. Shut the fuck up. But with, like, Scarlet and Violet, a lot of the games looked different between the gameplay and the cutscenes. The cutscenes looked so much more polished and a lot better, which is nice, thank you, but at the same time, then you go in between that and into gameplay where the gameplay looks so much more shit than the actual cutscene. And part of that is in turn because of the graphics. Hey, look at that. I tied it up. Now, again, graphically, Legend ZA might completely suck. And because it looks like Scarlet and Violet, right now I am unfortunately thinking that. But again, I will be going off the Scarlet and Violet graphics for the purposes of this video. So next up, graphically, Pokemon sucks dick. And I guess I'll also tie this loosely into performance optimization, because I don't know if you've been around the block at all, but yeah, these games run like shit. Scarlet and Violet, obviously, like the most recent example and the easiest example I could even bring up with this. Everybody, I think, remembers there was a video of this guy back when the game was first coming out where they had taken a ROM of, I think it was Scarlet specifically, and they had ran it on a computer, on an emulator on a computer, and they said, hey, look, this game runs amazing. It's at 60 FPS or 120, whatever the fuck, and it runs smooth as butter. It runs amazing. Maybe the problem is the Switch. Yes, the problem is the Switch. But you know what the other problem is? Is that you're developing the game for one console. I know there have been speculations and theories about how Scarlet and Violet was supposed to be a Nintendo Switch 2 game that actually got put onto the Switch 1. I think we can confidently say that since the Switch 2 took 2 years to get announced after Scarlet and Violet released, that was probably not the case. So we're not going to even entertain that theory. If you're developing it for one console, how do you not optimize it? Maybe not perfectly, but how is it so bad that you are seeing graphical glitches and bugs and so many other things throughout your entire game? The performance glitches, you're getting FPS drops. How? This is the thing with a lot of Nintendo games currently running on the Switch, unfortunately. A lot of games, especially more high in graphics, where it does not run as well on the Switch as it should absolutely be. Or it will run better in docked over handheld mode. I think if I remember correctly, Mario and Luigi Brothership was actually one where it ran better in handheld, I believe, than if you had it docked, because there was something with the trying to upscale it to 1080p or something. I don't know. I forget all the exact details on that. I fixed the hair, you OCD fuck. But back to what I was saying. You're developing it for one console. How are you not able to optimize this properly? And not even that you're developing this for one console, but you are a company that has developed multiple games now for this console. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, Sword and Shield, Legends Arceus, BDSP. I know technically BDSP was Ilka. So maybe we can get rid of that. But you have developed now multiple games for the Switch. You should know by now how the Switch works, how you can optimize your games for it, how the hardware works. How did Scarlet and Violet come out so absolutely shit? Again, probably because they didn't have enough time. I mean, they were developing Legends Arceus, and then 9 months later they had released Scarlet and Violet. Or sorry, 10 months later. So there was probably a time crunch in there, hence why that happened. But even then, we still don't have updates that have fixed it. The game is still pretty buggy, and performance is shit. Like, let's go through some more of this. I'm going to stay on performance optimization for a little bit, because again, this does tie into graphics loosely. Going back to my point on having to develop for one console, there are so many games that are optimized insanely well, and they have to run on multiple different things. Specifically, I want to look at games that have to run on PC as well as consoles. Because while consoles, I would say it's actually a little bit easier, from my limited research, to optimize for these, because it is a set system. If you're developing for the PS5 and the Series X, for example, it is one set system. You know exactly what the numbers are, how to optimize, where everything is. If you go to a PC, you have to optimize for different graphics cards, or at the very least, different graphics card, operating systems, different chips. Because think about it. If you're developing for PC and you want it to be able to run absolutely well on every graphics card, or at least on most graphics cards, you're going to have to develop for AMD graphics cards, Intel graphics cards, NVIDIA graphics cards. Intel might not be graphics cards. I'm sorry, fuck off. But then, depending on how far back you want to go with some of those graphics cards, you might have to develop for an older system, and you might have to downgrade, or you might have to go with a completely different optimization method because it's just not running on the same sort of architecture as some of the newer cards. Like, there are other teams that are able to optimize their games for not only multiple consoles, but multiple graphics cards as well to make it look good and run in the best possible way. So the fact that GameFreak can't even develop for one console, which is going to be set standard across everybody who's going to play it, is going to be playing it on the Switch legally. Everybody's experience will be the same. You only have to develop for one system. How are you not developing it as good as we know you can be and should be? Even looking at that, some of these other teams and companies have smaller development times, smaller budgets, smaller teams, and they are still able to put out an amazing product. Some notable examples, Persona 5, Witcher 3, Undertale, Hollow Knight, Dark Souls, ones that had to develop for a bunch of different consoles, but also had smaller teams, smaller budgets, lower development times in some cases. And all of these are absolute hits for different reasons maybe, but they were able to put out an amazing product. And it ran well. It looked amazing right off the bat. And you would think with all this, you would think, oh yeah, the Switch is still terrible. Now you think with me saying all this, you could go and you could say, well, there are obviously a lot of games that have problems on the Switch. I even mentioned before, Brothership had a problem where it would be better in handheld than docked. So there are a bunch of games that have not been able to be optimized well on the Switch. You see, you would think that, but let me point you to some games that were released before 2020. Now keep in mind, all of these games are running on the exact same CPU, the exact same GPU. They have all the same access to the same RAM, internet speeds, file transfer speeds. Everything is the exact same. We have games like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Hell, Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition just came out. That looks beautiful. You have Smash Bros. Ultimate, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, Mario Odyssey. You could even say Mario Wonder. That one did have a few issues, if I remember correctly, but Mario Wonder. So many games that look better, run better, have better frame rate in some cases. Games that just are able to run better than Scarlet and Violet, and they came out years ahead of time. What are we doing? You can also think about it, some of these IPs are smaller than Pokemon. I'm not going to argue about Mario or Legend of Zelda. Those are at the very least on par with Pokemon. But Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, with all due respect, they are not on the level of Pokemon. So it is not on the level of Pokemon. I would even go so far as to argue that Smash Bros. Is nowhere on a Pokemon or Mario or Legend of Zelda level of popularity and hype. I think there's an argument to be had there. That runs so much better. And you might say, oh, well, the file sizes. You know, Pokemon has a lot of assets. I mean, think about all the Pokemon models that have to be in there. All of the different, you know, environments, all the stuff around that. What about those? So Scarlet and Violet, including its DLC, is only about 14.5 gigabytes. Let's look at some of these other games that I have just mentioned before. Smash Bros. Ultimate, with its DLC, is 17.3 gigabytes. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, 14.3 gigabytes. Breath of the Wild, 14.4 gigabytes. Tears of the Kingdom, 16.3 gigabytes. Do you remember Tears of the Kingdom? Dude, Tears of the Kingdom was such a large world. And sure, you could say, oh, Scarlet and Violet's a huge world too if you're including the DLC. I mean, you have the Blueberry Academy, Kitakami, so you have more areas. Sure, I'll give you that. They didn't have to have all of those loaded in at the exact same time, though. And while I'm not going to sit here and claim Tears of the Kingdom has it all loaded in, because I'm going to be honest, I can't remember if they do. But you are so seamlessly able to go from the Sky Island to Hyrule to the underground beneath Hyrule. Do you not remember the fucking dive they are able to do from Sky Island into the underground? Everything has to say relatively loaded to be able to do that. So yeah, I would highly argue that if Tears of the Kingdom with 2 more gigabytes is able to run and be performance optimized so well, Scarlet and Violet should absolutely be as well, if not better, than Tears of the Kingdom in terms of performance. Okay, I've yapped on about that for way too long, so let's move on to some more. Voice acting. In the great year of our Lord and Savior, in 2025, we're never getting fucking voice acting in our cutscenes. Dude, even Legend of Zelda got fucking voice acting. Even Legend of Zelda got voice acting. Hell, Mario got voice acting in some cases. If you really want to take Mario! Yeah, that's voice acting. I understand that dialogue boxes are integral to RPGs. Like, that is very much like a big thing with RPGs is just dialogue boxes and, you know, walking up to NPCs, talking to them, dialogue box. But that we've got so many games now that are RPGs that run like that still have voice acting. That at the very least in their cutscenes have voice acting. Why can the number one IP not have voice acting? Again, in the very least in the cutscenes. Dude, the easiest one I can remember of why the fuck do we not have any voice acting is when you go back to Sword and Shield, the opening scene with Chairman Rose. He's walking out. Oh, he walks out into the stadium. Hello, everybody of Galar. Hello. No voice acting. It is all in a text box. But you know what we can hear? We can hear cheering in the background. So we don't want to pay for voice acting, and we don't want to give voice acting for fucking Chairman Rose to explain the beginning of the game. But no, we'll get some cheering in the background. We'll get some stock audio of cheering in the background. That's more important than the guy sitting there and actually doing some voice acting. Dude, what the fuck? Or another one, Scarlet and Violet. When they were in the professor's room with Arven, like we finally get into the room and we see it's empty and Arven's kind of going through all that. Dude, that would be so much more emotional if we had some fucking voice acting to go with it. Or in the Terastal Cave, when the professor is there and they have the ball, either the guy or the girl, doesn't matter. It would be so much cooler with voice acting. Like, we're getting full-length cutscenes at this point with, like, not even having to click to make the cutscene go along. Voice acting, people. Voice acting. It makes the game better. It just helps. I can understand if you don't want to do voice acting for every NPC line you see. Every line of dialogue, you don't want to have to do voice acting. I can understand that. But can we do voice acting for the cutscenes? Maybe for the main storylines that we have to see. Like, if we're going to a main story point, and this is dialogue that we cannot skip throughout the game, maybe that's one where you're like, okay, why don't we put some voice acting in here so that we can hear what they're saying? Dude, fucking Scarlet and Violet, there was a rapper. The ghost type gym leader. She was a rapper. And not only are the lyrics god fucking awful, so cringy as shit, but it makes it even more cringy because you can't fucking hear it. So you're just imagining them rapping these shitty lyrics, which means I'm gonna make them more shitty in my mind. Next up, stop removing the good shit from the game. I will say at this point, the shiny charm from Legends Arceus, the little whenever a shiny appears on the map, I will give them the benefit of the doubt and say maybe because of development times or because maybe they did have separate teams within GameFreak, they didn't do the shiny charm or chime in Scarlet and Violet because they wanted to see how it played out in Legends Arceus first. That I can understand. So we need this back in Legends ZA and all future games because that shiny chime was so fucking helpful, and especially with Scarlet and Violet and how small some of those models got. Dude, that shiny chime is fucking needed. Even if you don't want to do a chime, something on the map, maybe like a more of a visual cue, like, oh, maybe the edges of the screen will go a little golden or something. Something that can tell me, hey, there's a shiny here, because guess what? Some of these guys are way too small, or their notices are, or like their color differences are way too minuscule to be able to just be like, oh, hey, a shiny. Yeah, because I was going to pick that out from fucking 50 feet away. Next up, and one I think everybody can sympathize with, is shiny legendary Pokemon. Why are you shiny locking Pokemon? Why? Like, think about this. You're playing a single player game. Sure, there is trading. Sure, there is online multiplayer. But this is a mainly single player game. Why the fuck are you shiny locking the legendaries? To this day, Scarlet and Violet has been out for about 2.5 years at this point. I'm a little angry, you can see that. Why are Koraidon and Miraidon still shiny locked? Why are they still shiny locked? Why were they shiny locked in the first place? You could say, oh, it's the value of the shinies. Oh, it's the value of them. Treating them like fucking NFTs. Honestly, at this point, because they're shiny locking shit, yeah, these basically are NFTs. This is the crypto zoo we were all promised. Let's even step away from Koraidon and Miraidon for a second. Why are every legendary in the Blueberry Academy, you know how you have to get the candies and stuff for them, and then you can go find them in the overworld? Why are they shiny locked? Why? Their shinies have been out for years at this point. Some of them have been out for over 3 decades, or almost 3 decades. Why the fuck are they shiny locked? What is the... I need a logical answer on why they are shiny locked. Because right now, I do not see a reason why. Hell, I would say if you really want more user engagement and people playing your fucking game, then you make them not shiny locked. Because guess what? You're going to have so many shiny hunters and people who want to get the thing shiny that are going to be like, oh yeah, I will sit here and reload this bitch over and over again so that I can get this bitch as a shiny. They will do that. Next up, games don't need to improve because they are made for kids. Shut the fuck up. First of all, these games are not just made for kids. There are literally so many other parts of this game, other than the main game, that are in no way made for kids, or at least they do not cater to kids anymore. I mean, the easiest one is competitive VGC, or the competitive scene for Pokemon battling in the games. Yes, there are a good amount of kids that play that. Go to any fucking Pokemon championship. Go to any of these like major Pokemon tournaments. That's majority adults. That is majority adults, and Pokemon knows this. Dude, they put on Pokemon Worlds every year, and it is almost always adults in those situations. You also have all the content creators that play Pokemon and sing its fucking praises, or want to see it better like I do. Like, you have so many content creators whose main thing is going with Pokemon and doing the Pokemon games, doing Nuzlocke and other stuff like that. And Pokemon obviously knows about all this as well. But even if you'd want to disregard all those, Pokemon has been going on for almost 3 decades now. People have quite literally grown up with Pokemon, myself included. So many people have grown up with Pokemon and had that as their main game, anime, card game, plushies, whatever the fuck. There are so many adults that just love Pokemon because they have grown up with Pokemon. And while yes, you can say that their main target audience is children, you gotta understand that adults are a huge, and I would honestly say, larger market for Pokemon. Now, that doesn't mean I want them to start putting in fucking gore and shit into Pokemon and turning it into a fucking E-rate or R-rated game, but this is mainly utilized by adults, I would say. Hell, even if you want to go down the route of, oh, so many kids are playing this, the parents are still going to have to buy it for the kids, which might make the parents a little bit more interested in it as well. That's been a huge marketing tactic with kids' cartoons. That's why, this is my next point. This is why even back with like old 2000s and 2010s cartoons, they were made for kids. They were targeted towards kids, but they still had points in them where an adult could sit down and watch it with them and enjoy the show. Easy choices. Ben 10, whether you look at the original Alien Force, Ultimate Alien, I would even argue Omnitrix. Avatar: The Last Airbender, fuck Korra. Gravity Falls, the original Teen Titans. If you want to look at movies, you got Puss in Boots, you have Inside Out 1 and 2, you have Coco, How to Train Your Dragon, Kung Fu Panda 2 specifically. If you want to look at anime, you have The Big Three and Dragon Ball and a bunch of others. Like, you have so many things that are marketed towards kids, but an adult can sit there and actually have some substance with it. They can engage with it and actually be like, this is something cool. I understand this. This has adult themes in it. You can still make it marketed towards adults as well. It's like, yeah, the game might be intentionally made for kids, or the at least initial intent is for kids, but you cannot deny that this thing has such a huge adult audience that I would arguably say that they are the more prevalent group in Pokemon. And the final thing here I have kind of dogging on Pokemon a little bit after an hour is that they are the largest IP in the world. That is fact. That is not fiction. Facts don't care about your feelings. I'm joking with that. But they are quite literally the largest IP in the world. As of 2023, according to Wikipedia, they made $98.9 billion. I think it's either they made that or that's what they're valued at, but they are at almost $100 billion after about 28 years. In 2023 alone, it looks like they made around $10.8 billion. Like, if they are not already over $100 billion, they will be over that by the time this year ends, especially because of Pokemon ZA coming out and all the extra stuff with that. They will be over 100 billion if they are not already. Which means, money-wise, there is no excuse for them to be like, oh, we don't want to pay voice actors. You have the fucking money. You have the money. Next up, and I kind of mentioned this before, you have the money. Get yourself a bigger team. GameFreak's team size alone is about 200 employees, last I checked. Capcom is at 2,000. CD Projekt Red is at 900. Bandai Namco is at 1,050. Bethesda 400. Square Enix 4,350. And I'm pretty sure Ubisoft was at like 18,000. But that's not something I want to get into because it's Ubisoft. But like, get yourself a bigger team. Get yourself a bigger team, more developers, just hire more people to help you with this game. More people that can make the game better. Because I will tell you right now, if they can hire even, I would say 50 more people onto the team, they would make the game so much better. Even just with 50 more people. And I would say that that's even too little. They need to add more. They need to, in my opinion, at the very least, triple the size of their team, so that they can actually make good games, in my opinion. Because then they can release something every year, and it would be good quality. And maybe we can also get every Pokemon in a game again. We can actually get a National Dex back if they actually increase this team size so that they can get all the models done faster, get all the programming done, whatever. We're moving on. But looking at that, let's assume they stick with their 200 people. They just need to give themselves more time. Like, look at this. Look at this. This is me. I went through and I looked at the fucking things. I looked at all the release dates between each of these games. You have Gen 1, Red and Green. We're looking at the Red and Green games for that. Up to Gen 2, there was a 3-year gap. Between Generation 2 and Generation 3, there was a 3-year gap. Between Gen 3 and the Gen 1 remakes, there is a 2-year gap. Between Gen 1 remakes and the Gen 4, there was 2 years. Between Gen 4 and the Gen 2 remakes, there was 3 years. Between the Gen 2 remakes and Gen 5, there was 1 year. This is where we kind of start to see it go downhill a little bit. Between Gen 5 and the Gen 5 sequels, there was about 2 years. Between the Gen 5 sequels and Gen 6, there was 1 year. Between Gen 6 and the Gen 3 remakes, there was 1 year. Between Gen 3 remakes, Gen 7, there was 2 years. You can see the rest here. You could just see how everything got. I did leave out Gen 4 remakes because those were made by Ilka. So technically after the Gen 8 DLC, it went into Legends Arceus. They had 2 years. But Legends Arceus was pretty good. Performance and graphics had problems, but it was still a good game. So they need to be giving themselves more time. They need to be giving themselves more than 1 year. Hell, even more than 2 years, I would say. Because again, while Legends Arceus was great and they had that 2 years to work on that, there were still there were still bugs, there were still problems, there were still some things that they could have done a little bit better. And unfortunately, we're probably going to see the same thing with Legends ZA. Like, there's so much that they could do if they just gave themselves more time. And again, if they don't want to give themselves more time, they want to do it every year, I can understand that. Get a bigger team. And you probably saw the point, the next point on there. But for people saying, oh, well, they need to be releasing every year, everything revolves around it. You're right. While merchandise is the biggest seller of Pokemon, they, along with everything else, revolves around the video games. The video game was the thing that initially started Pokemon, and now everything Pokemon revolves around the games. That's anime. They can't start a new anime series or a new season until the games come out. They can't release new cards for the TCG. They can't do any new plushies or any new merch. They can't do any spin-off games with any of the new updates in Pokemon and anything like that. And obviously, the VGC is stuck where it is at. Like with Sword and Shield, we were stuck with that for 3-4 years, I think. And it is going to be the same with now Scarlet and Violet. We're going to be stuck with that for 3, possibly 4 years. When the games are the biggest point of innovation for the company, they are the front runner, where if the games do not come out, nothing else will come out. I can understand that. But if the games are supposed to be this front runner, they are supposed to be at the helm, they are the thing that is making the innovation. Why does it seem like it is the lowest on the totem pole when it comes to love and care? The anime, I think, is an easy way to look at and say the anime it has so much love and care put behind it. I mean, they just came out with a new series. They're even thinking about doing a time skip, I believe. I saw something about them doing a time skip because they fell into that problem with Ash before. So now they're doing that. They're doing Pokemon Concierge, so they're even doing another little spin-off anime thing there. The TCG is getting Megas back. They're doing so much with all of this stuff, but the games are still shit. Or at least they have a lot of problems, and it looks like they're not caring about it. And I know GameFreak themselves do not actually touch anything outside of the video games. Everything outside of the video games is the Pokemon Company. But the Pokemon Company is still a part of GameFreak, or they're at least intertwined. So while there are a lot of people who might not even like Pokemon for the video games, they might like it for the anime or the TCG, like all these fucking scalpers are. The games are still the main point, and where a lot of people have gotten into Pokemon. So if Pokemon doesn't even want to seem to love or care its main component, why would we? Now here's one last thing. You always have people say, well, if you don't like the games, don't buy them. Shut the fuck up! Hey. My system, my choice, buddy. Look, for a lot of people who play the games, we know that we are the problem. We know. The games have only been getting worse, but yet the sales have been going up. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, I believe, has passed and is now the top-selling Pokemon game, if not one of, the top 3, last I heard. So yes, I know that while the games are getting worse and more people are buying, we are essentially creating our own downfall here. But at least in my case, and I might speak for more people, but I want to speak for my case personally. Pokemon, like I said, is my favorite franchise. It is my favorite game franchise. Pokemon White 2, my favorite video game ever. It is in my top 5. It is in my top 10 every time. It is number 1. And a lot of us definitely ride off the high of nostalgia and how Pokemon used to make us feel and how much fun we used to have with Pokemon. But that's why we keep coming back, because we have a sliver of hope. We have even the smallest tiny shred that Game Freak might actually come back and say, hey, we're back, we're here to play, let's make an amazing game. A lot of us hate how the games that we grew up with, ones that used to have so much passion in it from what it seemed, are now getting somewhat flanderized, bastardized, however you want to say it. They're getting worse. We don't criticize Pokemon and yell and say all this because we hate Pokemon. We say this because we love Pokemon. We say this because we love how it used to make us feel. We still love the new experiences that they do give us. We just hate how it seems like they're trying to take shortcuts and demean everything that they have put their legacy on. It seems like they are intentionally disregarding their legacy. They're intentionally smearing it. And we hate that because we want to see Pokemon be better. Pokemon is already the best, but we know that they can do better. So again, I know we are the problem. And the only real way there's only a few ways that we can actually remedy this problem. And the biggest and probably easiest one, unfortunately, is voting with your dollar. If we want Pokemon to change, if we want to see them make their games better, we would have to stop buying the new games. We would have to absolutely pull ourselves out. Which, call it cult mentality, that's hard to do with this because Pokemon, again, holds so much love and nostalgia with all of us that we can't just not buy the game for a lot of us. Not that we're unable to not buy the game, but we just don't want to. We want to buy the new game. The only other way I can see this realistically getting fixed is if they either, again, up the team, give themselves more time, or maybe some new management. Now, I'm not saying Ishihara or any of the guys at the very, very top are the problem, but maybe some of those more managerial people, some of those people who are making some of these decisions, maybe they need to be moved out. Maybe they need to be knocked down a peg. That's the only realistic way I can see Pokemon moving forward at this point in time. And it's sad to say that. Yep, you're a real fucking savant there, buddy. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I appreciate you guys being here. I'm so happy you guys are here. This is the last Pokemon video I'm gonna have for a while. Until we get more news on Legends ZA, I'll stay away from Pokemon from a bit. I already made 3 videos on this in the last month. I wanna move away. I got other games and other ideas I wanna put out into videos. Again, apologies I did not upload on Monday. I don't know when this is gonna come out, but I am sorry I didn't get to upload on time. We're figuring it out. Now that I don't have midterms, at least for the next few weeks, I will hopefully be a little bit more free to make videos, maybe stream a little bit more. I've got some other projects I'm working on as well, not YouTube related. So yeah. But thank you guys so much. Also, we're probably just going to be sitting here doing videos because the XLR cables, they're not working with me, and I don't feel like buying new ones. So until I can buy a new mic, we're just going to work with it like this, which is perfectly fine with me. I don't mind too much. I just get to relax. I can't put down the cup. I mean, I put it down, but shut up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate you guys being here. I love you all. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everybody.
Getting tough from hoes right on my side, and I'm getting all the bottoms. Love to see them while they ride. Got me supercharged, sparking up like got me full of venom. Then I spark it up, the smoke just make them pull off all they down. Show the money spread, make it go and drop a good persona. Put the gun up to her head, that bitch ain't got no persona. Then we blasting off, rocking off to the skies like Jay. Get the RPG.